And joining us today we're lucky to have him, is Karl Palachuk. He's an IT author and blogger, and he comes to us from Small Biz Thoughts, but he's got a lot of experience past that. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, just to get started off, I have 10 years in online marketing experience. I've been working in SEO, SEM, and social media since the early 2000s. I'm Google AdWords certified. Previously to come into Autotask about 3 years ago, I used to be the e-commerce manager for a large retail clothing line, and I'm a big New York sports fan. I'm located in headquarters for Autotask. I'm a Yankees, Giants, Knicks, and Rangers, and I will be playing some golf down at Autotask Community Live in Orlando in a few weeks, and I'm more bogeys than birdies, but I always go for it. Just want to tell you about who Autotask is for those on the call that are not familiar with us or haven't been up to date on us. We were founded in 2001, born and built in the cloud since then, so we've got 10 plus years there. We have 200 plus full-time employees around the globe, and like I said, I'm coming to you today from East Greenbush, New York, from Autotask headquarters, where we have about 150 employees. We have all departments here in sales for North, Central, and South America, as well as account management. Autotask China, we're located in Beijing. We have an office there that is fully dedicated. They're full-time office Autotask employees. That's an engineering and a QA team, as well as we just started up our sales office out there for the Asia-Pacific region. And our international headquarters is actually in Richmond, in the UK, and that's actually right outside of London. We have 25 plus employees over there, and it's crazy to think that just over a year ago we had just hired Mark Banfield to lead up that office, and so he was the first employee, and now we've got coming up on 30 employees there. We had to move into a new office. And we just bought a new office, or moved into a new office in Australia, in the Sydney region, and that's headed up by Adam Ross, and we just hired a few more employees there. We're looking at 5 employees. So we've quickly become a global company, and it's thanks in part to a lot of people like you on the call today. And what is Autotask? Autotask is a cloud-based software as a service product. And we consider ourselves a business management application. We're purpose-built for technology service providers, and what you guys will hear out there in the channel a lot is professional services automation, or PSA, but we like to refer to ourselves as a service delivery intelligence platform. We have 5,000 or so customers around the globe, and we support about 50,000 users at the moment. And what does that mean for you guys, any Autotask customers on the call, as we go global? The more global that we go, the more revenue that we have, and we put 50% of our revenue back into the product every year. So it means a greater ability for us to pull on resources to give you guys more innovation. And just to tell you a little bit, give you some scale of our system performance, we do about 95 million page view requests per month of our software. We're delivering about a 1.5 terabytes of data, which is transferred to our customers each month. And our users are putting up 1.2 million tickets every month, about 190,000 CRM notes, and then the big things, the pipelines, the opportunities, 12,000 opportunities worth about $131 million. And the invoices that are going out, it's all about the money. Invoices each month average about $150 million in US dollars. To tell you a little bit about our network infrastructure, globally we have 40 physical servers. We have about 70 plus virtual servers, and in the last 12 months we have about 11 minutes of unplanned downtime, which is very important. We know that our software is mission critical for our users, so that's a trailing 4 nines for the last 12 months of uptime. We have physical data centers in the UK in Woking, and we also have our main data center in Albany, New York, right at headquarters. And we've got redundancy getting built into the US data centers. We've got Philadelphia. We've got a data center that's in the works right now, as well as full redundancy and getting set up in Denver. And we use Acme for our content delivery service and some dynamic route optimization. Now, what does Autotask do? Autotask will handle your account management with our CRM module. Sales management is also managed through our CRM module. Service management is going to be used and delivered through your service desk module as well as your projects module. And billing management, like I said before, it's all about the money. It's going to handle all different types of contracts. And reporting, it's all about intelligence. Reports module is going to help you out within Autotask. And to tell you a little bit about the CRM module, you're going to be able to handle all types of accounts, all types of different contacts in there that you want to have so that you can make sure that you have all your information for your customers in one place. You're going to be able to manage your opportunities and see your pipeline, and you're going to be able to set up configuration items within your CRM. Service desk module, this is where you're going to manage your service desk, obviously, and you're going to be able to handle service call scheduling, create and manage service desk queues, outsource management. You're going to be able to look at your SLA performance, and there is a knowledge base built into the service desk module. for your projects module. You want to make sure that you can set up different types of projects, client, internal, proposals, and templates, etc., all within the projects module of Autotask. Resource management, implementations, customer onboarding, build-outs, and milestones, all going to be handled through your projects module, all hooked up to all the other modules within Autotask. That's the most important part, is that all of these modules are integrated and all talking to each other. And for your contracts module, we know that you're going to have different types of contracts when you're out there billing, so anything that's set up for recurring service, time and materials, any fixed price stuff, all these things are going to be able to handle through the contracts module in Autotask. You're going to be able to approve and post those, and most importantly, get it out to invoicing. And reporting. It's the intelligence necessary to thrive is what we like to say, and it's going to help you determine who your most profitable client is, who your most valuable tech is, what contracts and services consistently are generating you high margins, so you can focus on those. What is your capacity for growth? Can you actually meet the SLAs that you're proposing to your clients? And more importantly, you want to be able to communicate your value of what you're giving your clients, and Autotask is going to track and deliver on that for you. And just to tell you a little bit about some of the people that we're working with, the customers that we have managed service providers, independent software vendors are using our software to run their businesses, VARs are out there using our software, system integrators, consultants, people still doing break-fix, because break-fix is always going to be there, system builders. And so those are some of the people that are in the industry using our software. And one thing that we're very focused on is staying as open as possible. And so we want to make sure that if there's a browser out there that you'd like to use, that we're working on making sure that you can use that. So Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, Firefox. I actually saw an article that Chrome had just passed Internet Explorer in global usage, which is kind of crazy if you think back just a few years ago. And then we also want to make sure that it's open to different people in your company so that you can give them different pieces of information from the executive level all the way down to the admin level. We want to make sure that you can access it on any type of browser, or not type of browser, but rather device, so you can use it on your desktop, obviously. We want to make sure you can access it via an iPad or an iPhone, Android, etc. And like we said before about staying open, we want to make sure that if you have any types of software that you're working with, any integrations like your RMM tools, your storage, your backups, Outlook Exchange, quoting, managed print, all of those can be plugged into Autotask so that you can run your business how you want to run your business. And it's all about a community. You can see here a few pictures. This is from Community on Tour up in the top left. These are some people in there from LPI, as well as Adam Stewart at the end of the table. He's our VP of Engineering. There's a great user group going on in the top right picture. And I also was able to find a picture of Karl Palachuk from our first Community Live, receiving an award for being, I believe, what was it, most greatest member blogger, or something along those lines that Karl had picked up down there. So I found that picture today. I wanted to make sure I got that in there while Karl was joining us.
Nice.
And you can actually see the marquee up there in the bottom right is from Miami last year, and we were down there for Community Live last year, and that was from one of our big nights out. So it's all about community. It's getting people like Karl to join us, and Autotask Academy is all about education. We do 25 plus live webinars and workshops a month. We have a lot of great product training always going on. Like I said before, I'm pointing you guys to the on-demand training videos. We've got 120 plus of them on there. We have a great boot camp right before Community Live, as well as virtual boot camps, and Karl actually has a great event coming up that's virtual that we'll talk about a little bit later. And we do road shows, like I showed you the one picture before. We were out on the road for Autotask Community on Tour. We try and get out there. I want to talk face-to-face with people. I think I can get the most out of what our clients have to offer by getting out there. And like I said, with education, we're always trying to pull in people like Karl who can deliver great content to our customers and to our prospects. So with that, I want to introduce Karl Palachuk. I know he's got a great session for you to take you guys through. So welcome, Karl.
Thank you. And wow, let's see, Yankees, Giants, Knicks, Rangers. You say that so fast, like you got little, lapel pins or something that show, what your loyalties are.
Yeah. I mean, I stay with the Yankees and I stay through, but I say I'm a New York sports fan, so go Yanks.
Alrighty. So let me get started. We're going to talk today about cloud services with a new product that Microsoft's had out for about a year. It's called SBS Essentials. And a lot of people that I've talked to, IT pros, as I travel around, haven't really figured out where this product fits, because it's got some really big differences from the SBS that we're used to. I am an author. I have worked as an MSP for 16 years, and currently I'm associated with America's Tech Support in Sacramento, California. We have been an Autotask user, I think, for 4 years now, and so we run the business on Autotask, and a lot of what we've gone through in developing things, there's always a tie into how do you document it, how do you manage it, how do you run service requests, and so forth. And so we are very familiar with the Autotask piece. Today we're going to talk about designing a cloud offering, and what I want you to take out of this is not the click-by-click of what I do, but kind of think about the process of how you would create a cloud offering with SBS Essentials. We'll give some of the details of what makes SBS Essentials different, talk about the specifics of the Cloud 5 tech that we use, and then look a little bit about how you would manage this in Autotask, at least the service management piece of it. So the goal today, Lindy Costanza said, I want to make a presentation on how we can do cloud offerings that's easy for the client, it's cost-effective, integrates with SBS Essentials. We want to touch on managed services. We want to make it profitable, and you got 40 minutes. So I said, all right, we'll see what we can do. So that's really our goal for the day. So if we accomplish this, we will have done what we've set out to do. The first thing we need to think about is, what does your average client's network map look like? And I think this is probably very familiar for most of us. We've got an SBS server that handles all these things. And for many of us, we're using an older version of SBS. SBS 2003 is one of the greatest products ever created. And it did all of these things. The problem is it did them on 32-bit architecture with 4 gigs of RAM. And so there's a limit to how much you can do. And we learned that we really had reached the limits of what we want to put on one box, especially if you have SQL and Exchange both working very hard. And so, now we've got 64-bit architecture, and we've got some other options available to us. And when I look at the world, I always think in terms of what are the individual services and what's the best place for them to live. Many of us have long ago moved our web services into the cloud. Why have, the most attacked port on the internet open on your network? So we moved port 80 out in the cloud. And then we moved spam filtering out into the cloud because it's very efficient, and you can dramatically reduce the traffic on your network if you don't see most of the requests to send spam coming into your Exchange server. Let the spam filter deal with all of that. So those two pieces have been in place for most of us for a very long time. And what's left is, what does a really small business need? They need storage, whether it's remote or local. They need email. They have to back the system up. They probably have a line of business, an LOB, application of some kind. And then I'm going to say a little less important, but obviously still important. You need Active Directory. Basically, you need to be able to log on to the system and, if you've only got 5 clients, the reason I say it's minor is it's very important, but, if 5 people log on all at once, there's no server that's not going to be able to handle that. Even 25 people, it just shouldn't be a problem. Remote web access, I think, is becoming less and less common because it's less and less necessary today. Most people don't need, unless they have a really old line of business app, most people don't need to get to their desktop anymore. And then SharePoint, which if you use it, it's critically important. But in terms of the percentage of people in micro businesses that are using SharePoint, it's just not that widely deployed. So if you think about what can we move up into the cloud, there are some things that have to live on site. I mean, obviously today, printing has to live on site. Your router has to be on site. Your wiring has to be on site. Your desktop, your monitor, your keyboard, there are things that cannot move up to the cloud. So we're going to look at what can we move up to the cloud and do so profitably. SBS Essentials, I love this product. It's, I actually like to take credit for having invented this with a blog post many years ago. I sort of had this idea, and it really is what Microsoft is moving towards, which is that you've got very simple licensing, and you handle the most basic things that absolutely have to be on site. And so it's available primarily as an OEM product, and if you have the Action Pack, you will have access to a copy of SBS Essentials, and I highly encourage you to install it. You can actually download it from Microsoft and install it with no product key, and I think it's good for 120 days or something, but enough that you can install it 10 times if you want and know exactly how the installation procedure goes. It's a little bit different than what you're used to, but it's very cool. And what it does is it's got backups on site. It does backups of the desktops as well as the server. It will obviously handle file storage. It does have the remote access. You can load line of business applications onto it, and you can connect it to outside services. Now, one of the interesting things about SBS Essentials is, as a member of the SBS family, you can buy SBS premium content. Like, you could buy a SQL server with SBS licensing, install it on a separate machine, and it would be limited to the licensing of your SBS server. Obviously, as an SBS server, it has to be the domain controller. It can be the only domain controller, so forth and so on. Well, it doesn't have to be the only domain controller, but it can be the only domain. There's only one domain, and there's no trusts and forests and all that stuff to worry about. The key differences are that you cannot put Exchange on this. It will not install. And same with SharePoint. So Microsoft has made through almost everybody who does hosted Exchange includes some SharePoint with it. So if you go to Rackspace or someplace, you get an Exchange mailbox and so much SharePoint space. And if you get 10 mailboxes, then you get more SharePoint space. So that piece is kind of automatically hosted as long as you buy into the hosted Exchange model. So taking Exchange and SharePoint out of the picture dramatically reduces the load locally. And the interesting thing is, and we'll come back to that, but you can now get by with much less of a server. You don't have to have an ML350 with RAID 5 and massive array in order to get the job done. Because once you do cloud services, and let's say you have a backup to the cloud, or your storage is actually on the cloud, then disaster recovery really consists of getting the system and the core pieces of Active Directory back, and then the rest of it, hey, you know what, Exchange is in the cloud. It was never affected by your server down. It was never affected by anything that happened in the office. And if you have your file storage in the cloud or backed up to the cloud, then again, it's not affected by anything that happens to that server. So it's possible to get by with a server that is a little less redundant, a little less beefy. You're not asking it to do as much, so you can think in terms of smaller server hardware. And several manufacturers are now coming out with that. I just saw a new product from Western Digital that they have a little server to compete with the HP microservers. So here's kind of a summary of SBS Essentials. And I want to focus on the limits because these aren't really much in the way of limits. 25 user licenses, it comes with 25. You cannot buy more, and so you can't expand beyond that. Now, if you buy premium content, such as a SQL server to put on a different machine, it will have 25 licenses, and you can't buy more. So that's a hard limit. So what you're going to want to do is think about, if you have a client that, let's say, is 20 users or less, you probably feel comfortable selling them this product or providing it to them. If they have 23 users, you probably don't want to go with this, because you don't want to hit that limit and then have to sell them another server and look like you really didn't know what you were doing the first time. So really, if you got 15 to 20 users and they're not growing super fast, it's a perfect model for that. It'll take 2 physical processors, and they can have multiple cores, 32 gigs of RAM. So, again, if you think about the fact that you're not doing Exchange, it goes a long ways. That really is a pretty good size server. The other thing is, if you think about it, I'm going to show you what we do on a small server, but you could do a big server. You could do a DL580. You could do an ML350. Right? You could do a bigger server because the operating system has the power to do what you need. You just